Welcome to the Taproxy Method, creating confident learners. The Taproxy Method uses a unique combination of breath work, brain-body work, gratitude, and a clay-based program to affect the neuroplasticity of the brain in students, to help strengthen their mind-body connection, help them develop a growth mindset, and most importantly, trust and confidence in themselves. Aloha and welcome to another episode of the Taproxy Method, Creating Confident Learners. I'm Tani Taproxy, the founder and creator. We're approaching summer, so what better time to start talking about good literature and just right fit books? So we'll dive deeper in this episode. I'll also share some of my very favorite texts that I go to time and time again. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. One way to support the Taproxy Method podcast is to leave a 5-star review and written review anywhere you listen to it. Thanks so much, and let's get started. Aloha and happy almost summer. As we're approaching summer, I wanted to start talking about reading and having kids read really good literature and actual books. We know that technology doesn't help with attention span, so this is a great place for kids to continue their academics through the summer in a fun, easy way where they have a lot of choice and then they don't end up with that summer brain at the end of the summer. And not only just reading really good literature and actual books, but a just right fit book for them. If you were on my newsletter this morning, I sent out a 3-step easy guide to help your child pick a just right fit book for them. I will resend that in my next newsletter coming out later in this summer. So the type of text your child reads matters. Reading influences spelling, writing, vocabulary, their grammar, the language that they pick up. It adds to the type of words that they choose to write with, the structure of their sentences. And when they read actual rich text, deeper meaning text, they get more from it. Reading is the quickest way to develop all of these other skills. And reading also shows us what skills are still difficult for them. So I'm going to share a little example. It's a short book. It's called The Dot by Peter Reynolds. And just a little example of how a short book even can have this deep meaning. So The Dot. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," she said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." Her teacher smiled. "Just make a mark and see where it takes you." Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There. Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. "Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name." The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above the teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. I can make a better dot than that." She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with yellow, she discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting, lots of little dots in many colors. If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. She handed a boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Please sign it." The end. So even in this quick little book, The Dot picture book here, we have a deeper text, a deeper meaning, something coming full circle. And I'll let you sit and think about what could be drawn from that simple story. So talking about reading is not just fluency, but it's these deeper thinking skills as well that allow for reading comprehension. We want them beyond reading fluently, evaluating, inferring, making connections, visualizing, predicting, using these reading strategies so that they are picking up even more from the story than just the words themselves. These things don't come naturally, and they do often need to be explicitly taught, but they are easier to do when the story is rich and deep and meaningful. If you just have kind of just a fluency book, there's not much room for discussion. Even though we're talking about summer and so forth, I wanted to talk about comics for homework. I, as a teacher, will say no comics for homework because it just doesn't show them what they need structurally in a paragraph or dialogue or so forth. Comics are great and for fun or every other book in summer reading, but we really want them familiar with both nonfiction and fiction text that is in paragraph form for the most part. The quickest way to develop a really strong reading habit is 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And if you think about this, if you want your child to learn writing skills and translate that into their own writing, their own paragraphs, their own vocabulary, if they're reading something like comics or Dogman, or I mean, even say Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which doesn't show any of the grammatical stuff, they're losing that ability to just kind of absorb the structure of paragraphs and dialogue. And so the compromise, if your kid is really, really into comics, I would say go to every other one so that they are still being exposed to deeper text and paragraph forms and formatting and so forth. So we're not taking anything away from them, but we're adding into it. And if it's the only type of book they're reading, comics and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, they're going to struggle come 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and so forth. I will say with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I have noticed with the kids who are drawn to that book, and I know it's a big thing with the movie and so forth, there is a correlation in the sassiness that comes from kids or the snarkiness even. So just being mindful as to what type of books your child is reading too, because it does influence how they speak, how they interact, and so forth with other people. So we want them reading just right fit books, something that's not too easy, that's not too hard, it's got just the right amount of stretch for them. And we want them reading something that they're interested, especially with summer and so forth. And we want them picking something that allows them to be an independent reader. So on my newsletter, I sent that out, a 3-step guide for any book for a child to pick that's just right for them, not too hard, not too easy. I will send that out again when I come back from my trip. And if so, make sure you're signed up on the newsletter. That's all at the end of this episode. When we talk about good literature or deeper meaning text or so forth, this is harder to do when they're first learning to read. But I do personally think there are better beginner books than others. With our non-readers, we want to start to build them or build a high frequency word bank of their own, which we do with word rings. And they're beyond sight words. They're the words that are important to them. And by building a word bank at sight, then they can start to read these level 1, 2, and 3 books. This is my go-to process with early readers, trying to help them build a large reading vocabulary at sight. Usually sometimes it starts with just a few words, their name, their sibling's name, mom and dad, dog, cat, but they're stop even because a lot of times they recognize that word on the stop sign, and then building their own personal vocabulary. Again, I've said this before, a child needs about 10,000 words at sight to read fluently. We don't sound out our own name. When we see it, we just say, hey, Tawny, or Nicole, or Christy, or whoever, whatever your name is. But to become fluent, we have to be able to read at sight as well, not just through phonetics. When the early readers are a little bit more difficult to pick good books for these early readers and non-readers, the level 1 and 2 vary quite a bit from text to text. So you have to kind of use your own discernment and look into the text. But some of the earlier readers that I really love are Splat the Cat, Olivia and her early readers that have kind of spun off from the first book, Olivia. And some Dr. Seuss books are accessible, but some are really hard for early readers. I'm personally not a fan of the Bob books. They do teach fluency and word patterns and so forth that they don't make any sense. There's no room to talk about a story. I kind of just joke with kids when I do use those, like, what is he doing? What happened? And so forth. But once the kids are reading, there are so many good choices to go from there. So we want them picking stuff that is good, like really has them thinking. For my younger kids, my favorite are the 4 Frog and Toad books. It's kind of a good transition from level 1-2 books into actual chapter books. They're perfect to jump into chapter books because the language is repetitive, but the stories are deep enough and the characters are endearing enough to do some real reading there. The Frog and Toad's friendship is just so adorable and cute and odd and fun to talk about, and it's pretty goofy, but the text is simple enough that kids can transition pretty quickly from those level ones. Then going to something like the Magic Tree House or the I Survive series, I would say that those are mostly second grade level books. And then I know a lot of kids like the Dogman series. I actually don't think that that's quite second grade level personally. And we want them, again, jumping text gets harder and harder. And the more fluent of a reader, the more solid of a reader, an independent reader they are before they get to the upper middle elementary years, the easier life's going to be because everything builds on content and being able to read. So it does worry me a little bit when I see older kids that are just reading these types of books like Dogman and the Magic Tree House and the I Survive series when they are in these upper 4th, 5th grade. Those are just not deep enough for where they should be. And yes, it's fine to go back and have an easy, fun read, especially in the summer and so forth. But I tell students, and I do tell students that oftentimes good readers read the same book more than once. But if it's the only type of book that they're reading in their repertoire, these comics or something that is quite a low-level book, then it becomes a problem. So we do need to be pushing kids into deeper texts where when they jump into those middle, upper elementary years. More into things like I Survive. That's kind of one of those transitionary books. Wayside Stories, Judy Moody, Ivy and Bean, Roald Dahl books, George's Marvelous Medicine is great, Dear Mr. Henshaw, and all those classic Judy Blume for these kind of younger middle elementary kids. With the upper elementary kids, we get into some really deep texts, which are some of my favorites, like Esperanza Rising. This is a girl who lost all her, family belongings to her uncles in Mexico and had to transition into migrant workers up in California. Number the Stars, Loot, Wonder, anything by Jordan Corman. Fortunately, The Milk is a hilarious book as well. And again, I know the Diary of the Wimpy Kids books are in this kind of time period, but again, I see a lot of kind of a little bit of snarkiness or sassiness that comes with those kids who are drawn to that. And again, there's not the paragraph structure that they should be intrinsically kind of just picking up through the reading process. Middle school, some of my go-to right now is Fortune Falls, where this town is literally lucky or unlucky. Princess Academy, which is misleading. It seems like it's one of those princessy books, but it's actually quite an empowering book for young women or young girls. The Among the Hidden series, Maniac McGee, The Giver, and Where the Red Fern Grows, and Hatchet. Those are just some of the books that I go to. And then we go into high school, Lord of the Flies, Cinder series, Fault in the Stars, and Anne Frank's Diary is some of my favorite go-to books. But really any book that interests them and then just pushes them just enough. Again, it's that Goldilocks thing. It's not too hard. It's not too easy. It's somewhere in the middle where they are stretching a little bit. And as we're approaching summer and it's summer break coming up, I do believe in breaks and resets, both for teachers and kids. So the Taproxy Method, Creating Confident Learners, is going to take a quick little summer break. I'll be taking my big annual trip this year abroad, and I'll share more when I come back. But make sure you're on my email list so that you'll be the first to know when we're back in July. I'll be sure to share what I've learned on my trip, but you'll also get my 3 easy step guide to picking a just right fit book this summer when you sign up. And the next newsletter and episode comes out in July, so be sure to stay tuned. Aloha. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at The Taproxy Method. I also take on a very few select private one-on-one clients worldwide for homeschool support and tutoring work. Email me at tawny.taproxy@tawnytutors.com. Make sure to sign up for the Taproxy Method Creating Confident Learners newsletter. Go to pages.tawnytutors.com/newsletter. You'll also receive a free gift that I've created for you when you sign up. This is something I use with every learner I meet. It will give you insight into what type of learner your child is and help avoid bigger issues before they even happen. Have a blessed day, and aloha.